dog's deed is done.
What can I say? They were the best. They really stood out. They put it all together when it counts, and that's what this sport's all about.
What a routine.
And that just may do it for Georgia here tonight.
Wow.
The Jim Dog Show is brought to you by Melwood Springs. Melwood Springs from the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Georgia.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jim Dog Show. I'm Jay Clark, flying solo this week in Suzanne's absence. We had our second home meet of the year with about 9,000 people in attendance. It was a great atmosphere once again. We had a great start to the meet. The first half of the meet, we did a great job, but we didn't finish the meet the way we'd like to. We still won the meet by about 1.5 points, but it's not exactly the way we want to compete, and it's not what's going to win us a championship, and it's certainly not what this Georgia team is capable of. In today's show, we'll look at the highlights as always, but later in the show, Karen Litchie, former Jim Dog legend, and now our volunteer assistant who coaches on the balance beam, will join me for the beam segment. But let's start off by taking a look at vault and bars, as that was probably the best part of this entire meet. Here we come out of the tunnel, kind of give you a behind-the-scenes look of what it looks like from the gymnast perspective when they enter the arena with the light show and the smoke and the fanfare. We start off on vault as usual for a home meet. Paige didn't do such a great vault the first one up, but here's Marcia. That's a good vault, just not landing it, you know. Marcia's got to train it that way every day. That's the issue, is that on certain days it's not quite as big as this. She gets a good rise off the table there. Just a big step there on the landing and goes 9.825. Tiffany Tolnay on vault for us, and this is the first time in a while I've seen Tiffany look like Tiffany. She's been struggling with some ankle issues and some problems on vault, and this really was probably the best vault she's done all year. Pretty good rise off the table there. We'd like to get back going to the 1.5, and hopefully we'll be able to move in that direction in the next couple of weeks. Cassidy McComb up next on vault. Cassie's been doing a 1.5. She had a little trouble in warm-up, so we went back to the full. That's a pretty solid vault. A hop there on the landing. We really think down the stretch, though, in order for her to score, she's going to need to get that 1.5 going. Pretty good repulsion there off the beam. A little bit of a pike in, and then she hops it as a result of that pike in, and she goes 9.825. Taylor Seaman over on the uneven bars for North Carolina State. There's a blind change to a piked Jaeger. A little late on the blind change, but the Jaeger had nice amplitude. A little loose in the middle of the body there on an overshoot to handstand, but it is a second D release, which is something that the judges use to separate good routines from lesser routines. And a double tuck half twist. Now, that's a little unorthodox, but it does give her a D dismount. Courtney Coupette's over on vault again. And you can see Courtney, as usual, she seems to be very, very comfortable with vault right now this time of year, and that's a good sign. The round-off entry, you see the half turn, nice and square onto the table, straight legs, a little bit of a leg separation right before she landed, and that's probably what got her the 9.95. Otherwise, that vault was about as good as you can do it. Heather Zoltan on bars for NC State. That's a Higgins to a mixed grip to a Jaeger. So that Higgins can be a little bit later than the blind chains that you saw earlier by nature of the skill. There's another one. A Higgins to a Healy. That full twist is called a Healy to a straddle back, which was very short. She needs to finish that in a handstand. Pretty good handstand there. Needs to control the middle of the body. And a half in double front or an Arabian double off the bars. It's actually called a Fontaine, but a pretty solid routine, 9.8. Katie Heenan finishing up our vault rotation. Huge Yurchenko full. Katie was kind of in the zone tonight. You can tell it from the time she started warming up. Strong round off here. See her stretch it out. She's right down the center of the board. A little bit of a pike down again, and she takes a hop, but she knows she's got a good one there, 9.95 for her. And so she and Courtney sort of garnered the lion's share of the credit on that vault rotation. After one rotation, we've got a 49.425 headed to bars, and Marcia's in the lineup. She's getting us off to start in the second position tonight. A little bit of a leg separation there on the backswing. Could be a minor deduction there. Marcia does great handstand. You see her lock that out and really sell it. The Stalter has a little bit of bent elbow. Good to Tkachev. That handstand was not quite as locked out as the first. And a pretty strong dismount here. If we can get her legs together and get rid of that step and balance wobble there, that's going to be a great routine. That's a 9.85. Kelsey Lee over on vault for NC State. Handspring front pike. That's only a 9.9 start value, but she has huge amplitude on that, so she still gets a decent score with a 9.775. Tiffany Tolnay over on bars for us. Little short on handstand, and Tiffany warmed them up perfect. You know, you hate to see kids warm up great and then do a little less than what they did in warm-ups. I think Tiffany's really turning the corner on this event for us. All week in practice, she did some of the best routines that I've seen her do in a long time. This giant full gets a little late, not as bad as some of the last few weeks, but again, in warm-ups, they were dead on top. And a solid dismount there, 9.875. That's a great bar routine. Grace Taylor back over on bars for us. Grace has been doing a better job. There's a muscle right here. You see she comes out of that front stalter a little bit early. Struggles to make it over. It's a good save, but a mistake that we don't need to be making nonetheless. Second release, the Comanche, crowd favorite. Good handstand there. She's winding up for her dismount. And just a step there on the landing. And Grace goes 9.825. Not the best routine she's done to this point this season. Heather Zoltan over on vault for NC State. Yurchenko full, not a bad vault. 9.775 is her score. Katie Heenan back on bars. Perfect toe on blind. We've really been working on the timing, getting that turned on top. She does a great job there. Handstand work is great throughout this routine. Overshoot to handstand, toe on and off. Everything is executed perfectly to this point. Another good handstand. This, to me, is the best routine we've seen Katie do all year long. Good blind change. Little step there on the landing, and one judge went 9.8 on that routine. I felt like it could have gone a little higher. Courtney Kupets finishing up our bar rotation as usual. Shaposhnikova overshoot combination there. Done very, very well. Courtney's handstands again in warm-ups just as Tiffany were all up. That one's pretty good there. She's doing a better job with the shape of the body on the hop full, as we talked about in last week's show. That handstand's getting a little soft. You can see she's beginning to get a little tired at the end of the routine. And this one's a little lower as still. Those are the only two deductions that I really saw in the routine. After two rotations, we score 49.375 on bars to have a total of 98.8. So we're really on pace for a great score.
The Gym Dog Show is brought to you by Melwood Springs. Melwood Springs from the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Georgia. By Makar Homes. Makar Homes, built with passion for over 50 years. By Brown Arrowhead Clinic. Arrowhead Clinic, Georgia's largest spinal healthcare organization. By Athens Regional Medical Center. At Athens Regional, we have a specialty. You. By Phil Hughes Honda. Phil Hughes Honda, the official Honda of the Georgia Gym Dogs. By the Georgia Club. The Georgia Club, a community of neighborhoods in Bulldog Country. And brought to you by Alpha Factor. Alpha Factor, the official gymnastics apparel worn by the Georgia Gym Dogs.
Ask Suzanne, brought to you by Makar Homes. And this week's question is, what do you plan to do in the gym this week to improve the team's performance against Auburn this week? Well, I think the biggest thing we've got to do is we've got to get into the right frame of mind starting Monday. We've got to get back in the gym and make sure that from a mental standpoint, we are approaching this meet as a 4-event meet, regardless of what's happening on the floor, regardless of the environment, regardless of how much of a lead or that we have or do not have going into the last two rotations. We've always gotten off to a good start this year. It's those last two rotations that seem to be kind of biting us a little bit. And that's Ask Suzanne, brought to you by Makar Homes. Welcome back. Well, joining me now is Karen Litchie-Usry, Gym Dog royalty, so to speak. As many of you remember her stellar career here at Georgia from 96 through 99. She was part of 2 national championship seasons and scored a perfect 40 and probably will be the only perfect 40 that any of us will ever see in our sport. Karen, talk to us a little bit about that. Let's kind of revisit those days there. We sit around a lot and talk about these things a lot of times, and we draw on your experience in a lot of our team meetings to kind of give us analogies that the athletes understand. Talk about your experience here as a gym dog and what it meant to you to be here for those 4 years.
Wow, gosh, being a gym dog is sometimes it's unexplainable because it was such an amazing 4 years of my life. And I enjoyed every aspect of competing and the tradition that continues to carry on here at the University of Georgia.
Well, now Karen is in a coaching role with us now as our volunteer assistant coach, and she sort of heads up what's going on over on Balance Beam. And speaking of Balance Beam, we're gonna look at those highlights in just a second. We've come off what is 2 very good rotations, some great improvement on the vaulting of it, which is nice to see because that's been the place where we've been having the most trouble. And then we went to bars and continued to be solid and actually got to mix the lineup up a little bit and got a couple of exhibition routines in there. So we did 8 full routines and all of them were hit. So I feel like things are kind of moving in the right direction there. So we're headed over to Balance Beam. We've got some things going, and we've got a tremendous lead, and that's the challenge, Karen. I think sometimes when you have that kind of lead, to maintain that level of focus and kind of talk to us about, you know, what you talk to the kids about going into a rotation like that in terms of their mental thing.
Well, I really just try to tell them to take one skill at a time and just to have a calm confidence up on the balance beam, because when you're competing in front of 10,000 people, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And so I try to tell them just to take what they do in practice every day and transfer that into a competition. So I have little keywords that I give each of the girls before they go up on the balance beam, and we just really try to focus on those keywords.
Right. Well, let's take a look at the highlights from Balance Beam. There we are, circled up, headed to Balance Beam. Got our team huddle that we have after every event. We're headed over to Balance Beam, and there's Katie Heenan, Karen. She's been a stalwart for us and an extremely consistent competitor for us for a lot of years.
She has, and this is the first season that she's gone first up on balance beam, and we decided to do that just to start our beam rotation off with a senior. This is her straddle jump, sheep jump, and we've been working real hard on keeping that consistent, and here's her front tuck. She had a little bit of a wobble there. You can tell she didn't fully finish her front, but Katie is just a great competitor, and that was a great stuck landing, and she's just really, really strong for us to start off on beam this season.
And then the next person coming up for us is Megan Doolin, and this is Megan's first meet to compete this year, and has really fought her way back into the lineup.
That's definitely for sure. This was a great training week for Megan on beam, and that's why she made the lineup. And we've been working really, really hard with Megan and keeping her real confident on each of her skills and just taking one skill at a time. Here's her cat leap front aerial, and that was just a little balance check there. But overall, Megan had a great beam routine. That's her switch side, which was a little bit off center, but she hung on for a great dismount, and she stuck that and kind of put an exclamation point on that routine.
And Hillary Morrow up next, freshman from Boston, Massachusetts, and she's been a real dynamo over here, Karen.
That's right. Her beam is outstanding. She is such a competitor, such a fierce competitor up on the balance beam, and she didn't have a single wobble throughout her whole routine. That was a punch front, and she has one of the best punch fronts in the country. She lands real high up, and here's her switch side, and you can tell that's real even in the air. And here she goes for her dismount. It's a round off double pike, and it's a real difficult dismount. And so she had a little bit of a big step on the landing, but I think throughout this season that is going to start getting where the step is a little bit smaller.
We had Courtney McCool finishing up here after a couple of problems earlier on with Courtney Kupets and Nikki Childs wobbling quite a bit, and this is the perfect person to finish out our routine.
Courtney McCool is such a great anchor for balance beam. Her form is exquisite on everything that she does, and she's such a competitor as well. She attacks each skill. Here's her sheep jump, which just had the only wobble in her beam routine, and her side summy. She had just a little bit of a balance check, but overall it was a beautiful beam routine for Courtney. Here she goes for her dismount, a round off double full, and she sticks the dismount.
Courtney, that was a great routine. I'm not sure that routine couldn't have gone a little bit higher. I think it went 9.85. Yeah, it did, and that could have gone a little bit higher. So after 3 rotations, we go 48.925 on the balance beam, and we've got a 147.725 to 146.675.
My name is Kira Cohen. I'm a gymnast at Georgia Elite Gymnastics, and I want to ask Hillary Morrow, what's the hardest skill you've ever trained? Thanks for the question, Kira. The hardest skill I've ever trained is a back 1.5 to a punch double front.
Hi, I'm Jan Nail. My favorite exercise was the floor exercise, but I have to admit my most memorable moment was when Courtney made her perfect 10 on the bars, and I was there to witness it.
We're headed to floor. We've had a little bit of a momentum shift now. You know, we started out great. We're headed to floor now after a little bit of a downer on the balance beam. However, those things are in part due to we had some new people competing and mixed up the lineup. You know, had Hillary not going early in the lineup. You had her fourth, and you had Megan in the lineup for the first time. So things are going to be a little bit different. However, we've got to bounce back, and we've got to go to floor, and we've got to do a great job of refocusing and finishing the meet strong, and let's see if we can do that. Final rotation, trying to get a big score here in front of our home crowd. You see the crowd is very much into it. Hillary Morrow starting off. This is a new pass, folks. That's a whip immediate double pike, and you see she kind of pogo sticks the landing and takes a big hop there. That is a deduction. Round off 1.5 to front full. That's very nicely done. She does have a little hop there to the side, but not too bad. And then finishes with a Rudy, a big lunge there at the end. Again, just landing deductions, things that we really don't need to be happening this time of year. Taylor Seaman on the balance beam for NC State. Taylor's been a really good addition for NC State. She's a pretty solid all-arounder on every event. Side aerial there, she has a little bit of trouble. Switch sleep to straddle jump. NC State coaches were telling me they had a lot of trouble on the balance beam, so they were just glad to get through a meet and hit the balance beam. You see a little bit of a leg issue on the round off double full, but a pretty solid landing, 9.675. Grace Taylor back in the floor lineup for us for the first time this year, and boy, is that a welcome sight. She's been a real fan favorite, doing the same two first passes that she did last year, the whip to double pike and then a double tuck in the middle. So that's a new pass there. That is a whip immediate double full. That is probably going to change to a 2.5 for next week. Abby Stack up next for us on floor, and I'm telling you, this performance really is becoming something our fans love. It's a very unique routine done to kind of a fast version of an Inspector Gadget type song. That is a triple full. It's an incredibly difficult tumbling pass that Abby does very well. Most triple fulls don't square it all the way around the way you see her square hers, and she is landing completely squared around with 3 twists in the air, and that is not easy to do at all. Abby's doing a great job now of also landing her leap series and the things that she needs to really work on in the polish. She's gotten a lot better at. Double full punch front, that's 2 twists, but with a punch front, so she gets a 1/10 of bonus on that. And again, right here, you see that wolf full 1.5 there. You see she controls that landing, which is something she was not doing earlier in the season, and I think her score is going to reflect that. The fans really like that part of the routine. You can see the student section starting to get into it. I don't know who that guy is in the background, but he needs a haircut. And Abby's about to finish up with a double pike, and it has gotten bigger and better. She's really been working the technique and the endurance to get that better. A little bounce there on the landing, stiff-legged it, and she said that when she came off the floor. But otherwise, just a great routine from Abby, and Abby goes 9.875 on floor for us. Courtney McCool rounding out our floor rotation. There's the front full after the 2.5. That's the first time she's done that as well for this season. So you can see we're beginning to add some of our difficulty in now that we're to the midway point of the season. You'll see another pass from her in just a minute. That's her whip double full. It's in the middle there. That'll probably stay that way the rest of the season. And here's the front double full. It's an E-level pass that she's now doing at the end instead of the Rudy that she had been doing, which is a 1.5. It's another half twist. It gives her another value part that is going to be great for her down the stretch as we get closer to championships. So we finish up with a 196.875 on a less than stellar night for us, and they had a 195.175. Routine of the week, brought to you by Athens Regional Medical Center. And this week's routine is Courtney Kupets on the uneven bars. Without a doubt, one of the best bar routines we've seen all year out of her, maybe the best, and that's Routine of the Week, brought to you by Athens Regional Medical Center. Countdown to the NC2As, brought to you by Melwood Springs. And this week, we want to remind you to get your tickets for the NCAA championships here in Athens. You can go to georgiadogs.com or call 706-540.